Welcome to another edition of the Let's Be Frank Show. My name is Frank Mentone. I'm the publisher of the Totucket Times. And as you know, if you follow our show, we like to introduce you to some key people now and then, some key people in the town that may affect your lives. And our guest this evening is James Bach, who's the Emergency Management Director in the town of North Branford. So welcome aboard. It's nice to have you here this evening. I think the first question is, let's go with, what does an emergency management director do?
Well, thank you, Frank, and thank you to those watching on TotoketTV. Emergency management director is a position that is required by the state of Connecticut Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. It funnels through their regional offices, and each municipality must have a designated emergency management director. So part of what we do is to plan and prepare to respond and recover from emergencies and disasters, whether they're natural or man-made. To do so, we need to develop and cultivate relationships with partner agencies, whether it's the utilities, some of our non-governmental agencies, Red Cross. We're looking to partner with faith-based groups, and it's really important to develop those relationships in advance of an emergency so that we're all on the same sheet of music when an emergency comes and affects the citizens.
Now, how long has this been in, because you haven't been here that long, but how long has this mandate been in effect that we needed to have I know before we had, I think it was the fire chief was acting as the emergency management person?
That's correct. And actually, quite often, many municipalities will designate one of their staff officials to fill that role. What's happened, I think it started after 9/11, it accelerated after Hurricane Katrina and some other disasters, and especially in Connecticut with the storms that hit a few years ago, Irene and Sandy and the winter snowstorm that hit around Halloween time. There's been a big focus on making sure the staff member that's associated with that role has the time and the resources to dedicate to it. So traditionally, it is somebody on staff, but they really want to make sure that individual has the ability to dedicate and do the proper planning. I'm fortunate to have two prior emergency management directors here in town to share information with and draw upon their experience.
Oh, we do now?
We do. So Fire Chief Seward was the emergency management director.
Yeah, I remember him as being one.
That's correct. And for a time, town manager Mike Paulus was fulfilling the responsibilities. So I think that's around the time they decided, let's bring somebody in, and I was happy to come in and fill that role.
Okay, well, that led right into my next question. Why you? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Because you don't live in North Branford.
I don't.
But you've got a background, so give us a little bit about your background.
Okay, great. I'd say I'd start by describing myself as a father. I think family's important. I'm a father, husband, son, brother, uncle, and family's first. And a lot of what we deal with here in emergency management, as it relates to preparation, deals with families, because people need to make sure that their families are cared for and prepared for. My core experience is 22 years as a paid firefighter with the city of Bridgeport. And that's led me to a significant chunk of experience in emergency response, and that helped me transition well into this role. I do have a degree in emergency management and homeland security, and I realized this was a career path, and I wanted to pursue it. So that brought me to come before the town when they posted the opening. But what's important as it relates to coming into emergency management is what brings you in, what ties you to it. And when I was 19 years old, I was enrolled for college at Southern University, Southern Connecticut State University. I was a declared finance major. I kind of had my life in front of me. And as I'm driving to work in the summer, found myself in the midst of a pretty significant storm. And I'm driving down the highway, I-91, and the signs are coming down across the road, debris, and I got off the road. I got off the highway, and I said, okay, well, where am I? As it turns out, I got off the highway right in the middle of the significant storm.
Oh, so you had a good direction. You didn't even need a GPS to do that, right? You get off the right exit.
Yeah, it wasn't, ideally, that wasn't what one would do. Had I kept driving, I probably would have been fine. But I said, okay, it's time for me to get off. As it turns out, where I was not far from where my father lived. Because the storm was so severe, I wanted to check on him. So I got to where he was fine. And it wasn't far from this was in Hamden, and it wasn't far from the community center in Hamden where they stored a lot of their disaster supplies. So I saw them assembling there, stocking up the supplies, and I offered to help. I went up, and as I started participating with that, I ended up at the Hamden High School, which was their designated shelter, and volunteering throughout the evening, helping set up and run their shelter at 19. It was that moment that made me realize I didn't necessarily have life figured out, and I wanted to be a part of this team. I wanted to be, wasn't sure yet what I wanted to do, but I wanted to help people.
Well, so you went from an accountant. What was the name of that hurricane?
It was a tornado. It was July. I believe the date was July 10th, 1989.
I only remember that because I remember the Strand Theater got wiped. Was it the Strand Theater that got wiped out?
Yes, up on Dixwell Avenue.
And it was one of my dating spots was the Strand Theater. So I was upset for different reasons, but I was a little older than 19 because when I went to Southern, it wasn't a university; it was still a college. So, what exactly? What is your function? I mean, you gave us a few things, but
Right.
What is your function now as our emergency management director?
Well, it's important to reach the public, and we reach the public via a number of methods. Certainly traditional media. We've really spearheaded the use of social media because more and more people are utilizing that. But you're never going to reach everybody one way. So we've learned that. We're trying to continue to evolve, and I appreciate the forum here to reach out and try to reach out some new people. We try to prepare our first responders and town agencies like our Public Works Department, and with the communications they need, the proper training. We conduct drills, functional drills, as well as participate in the statewide exercise every year. The state of Connecticut has an annual preparedness exercise, and that's coming up, and we'll be participating in that. And it's one of those things that is it's a mandate, but it's good because we get all the town department heads together in the room at the EOC, and I think we all come away from it a little better. We all learn something from each other. Everybody's in the room talking, and we're given different different situations and scenarios that we need to prepare for and respond to.
So it's more than just my cat stuck in a tree, right?
Right,
I have to
and
go
it
ahead.
tests the system. It tests our communications. It tests our ability to get the resources we need where we need them.
Okay, so now what are the projects we're working on now with our town?
Right. So the emergency operations plan hasn't been updated in a few years. Like we discussed, there was a change in the emergency management position, the staffing of that position. So as we focus on the emergency operations plan, we need to look at the mechanism for how that comes about. And part of that mechanism is the local emergency planning committee. It's a committee that is formed, but it really has not been meeting regularly. And that's something we're reenacting, re-enabling, so that we can begin this process of revisions to the emergency operations plan. The plan also doesn't focus on some things that have become bigger focus, and something we've kind of looked at better as we've gone through a few disasters and realized why people don't take advantage of the help that's available. So those that have functional needs, that have special needs, that we may need to have additional resources to help out those at more vulnerable housing situations and people with pets. One of the number one reasons cited during Hurricane Katrina for why people did not evacuate was they would not leave their pets.
Wow.
So that's something we're trying to address, and one of our regional partners, the CT SART team, they help with that. And one of the things they do is they make you think, okay, a pet, my idea of a pet may not be your idea of a pet. And in town we have farms and we have other, so I may have 2 cats at home. Somebody may have 4 cows, 2 horses, and a goat. So, you know, you have different needs in those situations.
Now, there's a project you're working on coming soon where we're going to get, you're going to have sort of an open house thing for the residents to come and be informed on certain things. You want to maybe talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So on November 2nd at 6 p.m. at the Stanley T. Williams Community Center, I'll be hosting a community preparedness class. And it's designed for the citizens to become more resilient. They talk about the things that they can do to help them sustain through an emergency, but also how to give back and how to help out. You know, one of the things I want to mention is that as a firefighter, a career firefighter, I obviously hold highly the values of those that respond in emergencies. Firefighters, police officers, let's not forget our public works who are out there in the middle of the emergencies. And there's a lot of people that help on a lot of levels. But in town, I think it's extremely fortunate to have such a dedicated volunteer firefighting staff. To what I do for a profession, people are willing to do and put on that turnout gear and go into unknown conditions to help their neighbor.
Right.
And that's a great thing. And I think there's other ways people can get involved, and we're looking to explore that. You know, one of the things we may want to look towards is some future integration with the community.
Okay, and that's what you're going to be talking a little bit about that at this forum on November 2nd.
That's correct.
Is it the 2nd?
No, November 2nd. That's right.
All right.
It's a Wednesday. Wednesday evening, 6 p.m.
And I think that flashed on the screen a couple of times, and there's also an email address that's coming up once in a while for getting in touch with you. All right, so you have that you're working on. What are I'm sure there's a bunch of other future goals that you get going. And I mean, they say your job is part-time, but you know, I know people, and they're telling me that you're there far more than part-time. So
we stay pretty busy. That's right. That's right. So, right, you can't do everything all at once. You know, it kind of starts, you build on a foundation, and I think that's what we're looking to do. But one of the things we're continuing to improve upon is the outreach to the citizens, because that's very important in a disaster. We're trying to get together some multiple agencies. Typically, drills are done within a group, so the firefighters get together on their drill night, and they drill and they train together, and they work hard at their craft, at their profession. It's good to get the multi-agency response together, because that's what typically will happen. In the middle of an emergency, you'll have multiple agencies there, and so we're trying to schedule some more of that and bring them in together. One of the things that's really interesting to me is a CERT program. CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team, and we certainly would be looking to maybe identify and work with either some groups that have already formed in other capacities, or individuals out in town that would like to be a part of something to help their neighbors. And that's what a CERT does. And it can take the place of community events. You know, our Potato and Corn Festival, we get a good number of volunteers, but they could always use additional people. If we had a CERT in town, it would be a great help. And you know, that's one of the roles of, we talked before about the roles and responsibilities of an emergency management director, is try to find where do we need help, where do we need to plug the hole and bring in additional resources.
Yeah, this helps too with when something does happen, because I know sometimes in my younger day in town when I was wild and carefree and something would happen, I'd be like, okay, what can I do? I'm sitting home, I might as well do something. And I really didn't know until I got involved with the newspaper. And then I said, oh, they're at town hall, or they're at the fire, they're at the police department, or I knew who to call. But you don't want to get somebody just saying, oh, I got to help, and getting in the car and start driving around and create more chaos than help, because the person doesn't actually know what they have to do to help. So they're like, oh, maybe I'll drive around and see if I can find a place to help out. Well, maybe they may be the ones that need the help pretty soon, but you're going to, your organization is going to have some type of a forum for that, where people go, okay, we're having this, and you can get in touch with your volunteers and say, okay, this is where we need you, and things like that. Am I putting words in your mouth?
No, that's a great point, Frank, and I'm glad you said it that way, because when disaster hits, people do feel the desire to help. And what I would suggest is that's not the time to get started with a group to help. If you feel you want to help people in need, now's the time. So there's a planning stage. We know who's coming. One of the most difficult things in an emergency is not just dealing with the emergency, but dealing with the number of people there to help. And they're good intention,
Right.
and they may have great resources, but we can't keep track of them. And so accountability at a disaster scene is very important. And so I think we need to know who's coming, who we can count on, and we're trying to bolster that. So I think that's one of our initiatives moving forward.
Like the old Andy Griffith show on B had the soup. That was her job. When they had a problem, she came in with the soup. She knew what she had to do, and that's what we need to know, so that people can help because this town's a giving town, and there's people who do want to help, so they're going to be able to they can find some things out about that on at this meeting. What do we do when there is a disaster? I mean, okay, we've got a snowstorm coming in, and we know it's going to be 47 feet, and what happens at that point, so that me sitting home, I'm a little bit comfortable, knowing that I do have my generator or whatever, but what happens there?
Well, I think we need to talk about necessities. So certainly you want to have water. You'd like to have a gallon of water for each person per day. So family of 4, we're talking you need to be on your own, be able to be resilient for at least 72 hours before we can assure aid and assistance can get to you. So family of 4, you're looking at 12 gallons of water to get through those 3. That's not a tremendous amount if you have some type of pantry or storeroom or something that you can have those supplies on hand. And be smart about things too, because you want to make sure, especially if it's something significant like you mentioned, that you're able to have the supplies you need. So if you do store food, don't just buy the food once. There's a lot of disaster preppers, and there's TV shows out there. People buy the food, the supplies, and then they forget about them. Well, rotating them is important as well. They do have a shelf life. Water has a shelf life, the way it's stored in the plastic jug. So you want to be thinking of that not just when the emergency hits, but at all times. Certainly, we don't want people using candles. There's been problems with generators indoors, so we want people to be smart about those things, have them set up, professionally installed, with permits and proper procedures. We want to make sure if you do, rather than candles, you have flashlights on hand, extra batteries. If they're a flashlight that can crank or use solar power, that's even better. You can leave it out and it'll replenish. There are radios that you can hand crank as well, so you can make sure you have a connection to the outside world. You can get information. Cell phones in advance of any forecast events, cell phones should be charged. Your gasoline in your vehicle, top that off. Make sure you have some cash on hand. Cash is something that's important in an emergency. If something widespread happens and we don't have the ability to use credit, like we've all become very accustomed to it.
Your ATM goes out, and
Right.
I know my kids never have 20 cents on them. I think that's a way to get me to pay all the time, but that's a whole nother show. But
A few more things I do want to mention about supplies, because medications are very important.
Yeah.
And a way to keep medications that need to be refrigerated cold. So if it's a winter type event, if you needed to, grab a cooler and some ice or snow from outside, because then that's an option. But you certainly want to have, maybe even some cold packs on hand as part of a full first aid kit. As it relates to being a little more self-sustainable, and all these tips are on our website. By the way, on the town's website, we have a section for emergency management, and there's preparedness tips on the website. I urge you all to go to it. It has a lot of this information. A communications plan, not something people think about all the time. If communications widespread out, then how are you going to get messages to your family members if you're spread out? So it's best to have maybe somebody that's outside the affected area. If a hurricane's forecast to hit here and you know somebody Midwest or West Coast, maybe that's your contact person. And everybody in the family knows to call, Uncle Joe. And that's who they're going to check in with and get information in case you're unable to communicate with each other. The cell phones. The cell towers get inundated in emergencies. So using text messaging is a preferable option because it uses less bandwidth and allows more messages to get through without being on the phone. So everybody wants to hear their loved one's voice, and I understand that. But using the text messaging features, if that's something you have available, is better.
Right. Yeah, because they know now. How do we other than, you watch the news and we're getting 2 inches of snow, and they're coming on every 5 minutes for 3 days in advance, telling you it's going to be 14 feet, and you gotta, so my mother-in-law's calling to tell me to go buy bread, eggs, and milk. Well, I don't eat bread or eggs, and I don't drink milk, so why I need that, I have no idea. But she means well. But how do I find out from the town, like what do I do if I lose my power, or what do I do if I'm stuck, or where do I go for if I don't have heat and I need a place to stay? How do I find that out? Other than the fact that the television is telling me that I'm going to die in 3 minutes.
Right. And you may not have access to TV and those reports, but hopefully people have pre-registered using the Code Red notification system. There's a link on our website. We try to prominently feature that. If you come into Town Hall at any day of the week, we've got the Code Red signs all over the wall. We really want to get that out so that everybody knows it's something you can opt in, set up your contact information as you wish. It can be text messages, phone calls. We have a voicemail. We create the message that goes out. And this is our notification system to get out to the public. And we can target that if it's one localized area. Not long after I became emergency management director, there was a microburst that came through in the Northford section. It disrupted power, travel. We had trees down, we had wires down. Utilizing the Code Red system, we were able to get messages out to those in the affected area. Didn't have to go out to everybody through the town because some areas were not affected. So that's where setting these things up ahead of time really pays off. And for those that haven't set that up, or that their notification method is not working at the time, we will utilize our resources we have. So we have the messaging boards. You see them up in advance of the festival and other town events. Yeah. We can put messages up there that show where shelters. Our designated shelter is NBIS. It is through the Red Cross, and this predates my time here at the town. It was designated a regional shelter. So a regional shelter is interesting because there may be times when areas of the region may be impacted. For instance, the hurricane that was forecast recently was impacted to be a pretty significant coastal storm. Fortunately, it turned out to not be as severe as they forecast. But we had preliminary discussions, and it was quite possible that the coastal areas would need to be evacuated. And you want to bring people that are in an affected area to an area that's not expected to be impacted. So they were discussing with us the possibility of opening up NBIS for a coastal storm that might not have hit North Branford very hard. So these are the types of things that we need to be prepared for. And certainly notifications and getting that word out is important. But it is important that people know, should they need shelter, NBIS is the designated shelter in town.
Great. So go on the website and check these things out, and like Jim said earlier, don't wait until you lose power through a storm and then you're stuck. Know what you're doing now, so that when this, and don't say, well, it never happened in my town. But if you spend some time doing that, you'll be much better off in the long run. We got about 2-3 minutes left. What did we miss? Are we looking for a bad winter? I got to start, buy my wife a new snow shovel, or what? What's?
Well, that's interesting, because I was at a UI preparedness event a couple weeks ago, and our favorite weatherman, Gil Simmons, was there, who a lot of people wake up to in the morning to see the weather, and he was talking about this winter. We've been in an El Nino type pattern. You hear these things mentioned. We're shifting to a La Nina weather pattern. And so La Nina,
it's going from the guy to the woman.
These are all the code words associated with these weather patterns. What it ultimately means for us here in the Northeast is that we're looking at stronger chance of repeated weather patterns. We've seen this in the past. Last winter, we were very lucky. It was quite mild. We really did not suffer from too many storms. There were one or two. It wasn't that bad. I would expect this winter to be different. Farmer's Almanac agrees as well.
Great. So last winter I classified as a one fall winter, and meaning I fell once. So this one I'm probably going down 3 or 4 times. Huh?
Well, let's hope to keep you safe. Let's hope to keep you safe, Frank. Yes.
All right. So we got November 2nd. We have the website. We have your email address if someone has a question or a problem, and hopefully this will help keep us safer in times of trouble, as they say. So I want to thank you for coming here and spending your time here and helping us get the word out, and hopefully we'll be safe.
Thanks for having me, Frank. Appreciate it. It's important to get the word out to the town residents, and I appreciate everything you do to help do that.
Thank our director tonight, Michael Cummings, and until next time, be safe.